Very much. Yes, I'm joined by the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Dr. Peter Mulder. Sir, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jay.
Right. A very strong emphasis on energy that came through in the speech today. Were you satisfied with that?
Well, let me tell, the government's job is to create infrastructure, and that surely we'll support them. Whether it's nuclear energy, whether it's just energy, we need that for economic growth. On the negative side, I really experienced the president as muted a bit. The gas is out of the bottle, and there was no real original proposals. How are we going to get the country out of the economic crisis? Surely the infrastructure would help. But on the labour laws, for example, I needed something there to stop a repeat of the strike that we had. There was no mention of that at all. Housing alone is not going to solve that. Positive on corruption, that officials are not allowed to do business with government servants. That's positive, and that hopefully will stop corruption or help corruption stop in the end of the day.
He spoke also on the issue of youth empowerment. Are you satisfied with that?
Well, he gave some statistics that the measures at the moment are working. There's a lot of criticism on that, and surely we need more of that to help with tax incentives to get the youth working and to help government and specific private sector to create those jobs, and that's positive as well, yeah.
All right, sir, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us. We are hoping to get Mmusi Maimane from the Democratic Alliance. Mmusi Maimane is, of course, the leader of the Democratic Alliance in Parliament. Mr. Maimane, a strong focus on the economy by the President.
Absolutely. Some of these things we've called for so many years, that the President's response is in some ways a bit too late. There were some initiatives that are straight from the National Development Plan, which is an important document that the President put forward. They're going to take a lot of courage to implement. I'm concerned that President Zuma is living in one space while South Africans are living in a very, very difficult space. And I felt tonight the President had an opportunity to bring some very strong ideas, some very bold steps, and I didn't see that forthcoming.
Okay. Well, when you say bold steps, what would you have liked to hear?
I think even the procurement of energy, issues around there seems to be a greater interest from the President's side to increase state expenditure in this regard. You're not going to be able to collect the relevant revenue to do that. The President should have acted earlier and quicker. It must allow legislation to allow other people to be providers of energy. So there could have been a lot more that the President should have done decisively and boldly, and I felt he didn't do that.
All right, Mr. Maimane, thanks very much for joining us. That was Mmusi Maimane, the DA leader in Parliament. I now cross you over to my colleague, Asanda Mbeche.
Thank you, Lucanyo. Rev Kenneth Meshoe of the ACDP is joining us. Reverend, the President spoke a bit about stabilizing the mining industry. Looking back at all the issues and all the concerns we've had, he spoke about moving the mining framework that was brokered by Deputy President Mohlante to the presidency now for his particular attention. What impact do you think that will have on stabilizing the mining sector?
Well, I'm not sure whether that is definitely going to make an impact, because promises have been made many times before. And today I think he repeated a number of promises that were made. So to move the responsibility that was given to the Deputy President to his office, I'm not sure how that is going to bring about a change. Now, he needs to convince us that when he makes promises, he keeps the promises. And because the track record is, there's never been promises that were made that have been fulfilled. One doubts whether moving from one department to the other is going to make any difference.
Do you think the support that was mentioned for municipalities will bring some difference?
You know, another promise, he said a plan of action. But what came out when he spoke about the plan of action, I was expecting 1, 2, 3 things that he was going to do. But it just support. And obviously I have to ask the question, all these years were they not supporting the municipalities? And I'm sure they were supporting them, but their support was not working. So we needed to know what different things are they going to do rather than just support. Because support means throwing the money at the problem. And I don't think that's a solution.
Thank you so much, Reverend. That's Reverend Kenneth Meshoe of the ACDP. I understand Lucanyo is already standing by with the SG of the NC. Lucanyo.
Sanda, thank you very much. Yes, I'm now joined by Mr. Gwede Mantashe, who is, of course, the Secretary General of the African National Congress. Mr. Mantashe, was that speech in keeping with the manifesto?
It is in line with the plan of the African National Congress, from the manifesto to the Lekgotla to the Cabinet Lekgotla. Program of action, not theories, not concepts, clear targets, clear steps, good emphasis on the economy and employment creation, dedicated a lot of time on those issues that are critical, sufficient time paid on local government, which is quite critical for us to change the lives of our people. You will look into other aspects, whether you go to education and health, It is action-oriented, not concepts of how we write it in the manifesto. It is translation and interpretation of the manifesto into a program.
So I think what was surprising for a lot of us that were listening to the president was the issue of nuclear energy. Came out quite strongly about that.
It's not only nuclear. You remember that we said there are 4 sectors that are catalytic sectors. We said it's energy, it's transport infrastructure, it's ICT, water and sanitation. Those are the 4 areas. And therefore, all of them, there was enough emphasis on practical programs that will be there. Remember that there was a mention of coal 3 as well. There was a lot of mention on renewable energies, and therefore nuclear is one of the options because we're talking of a balanced energy mix. And therefore that energy mix is necessary for us to be diversified, including sources energy from outside of the country, as mention was made of the Great Inga project.
All right. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Gwede Mantashe. I now cross you back over to my colleagues Vuyo Mvoko and Leanne Manis, but I'm sure they will come to us a little bit later on for more reaction.